is up to the challenge of following Joey the Belvedere's. Going from Joey Bishop's sidekick to Kelly Ripa's arm king, it has been one wild and crazy ride for the next guy to be inducted, the one and only Regis Philbin.
Won the hearts of audiences across the nation. It's not surprising that in September 2010, he broke his own existing Guinness Book of World Records for the most hours on camera, a staggering 16,548.5 hours over his illustrious career, and is still counting.
I feel like I'm at home, when I'm in front of a camera, more than sometimes when I'm not. I get nervous when there's no camera. Not kidding, it's not that bad. But I do find it fun to work in front of the camera.
From the time he was young, Regis wanted to be an entertainer. Even though it's hard to believe, he felt he didn't have any talent.
Frankly, when I was young, and when I was growing up, and when I had all these dreams about what my talent was, and realized I really didn't have any talent, but it was a serious problem for me.
It quickly became clear that Regis's talent was his warmth, humor, and relaxed personality. He was the master of acting. After attending Notre Dame University and joining the Navy, Regis hopped in a car and headed west. But Hollywood didn't pan out right away, so Philbin began his career as a page at NBC in New York. Soon he headed back to California, where he began his on-air career as a news reporter and substitute anchor. But early on, he knew he wanted to host a talk show. What was to become a lifetime achievement began in 1961 when the Regis Philbin Show premiered on KOGO-TV in San Diego.
And I thought maybe I could do that. Just tell a story about who I had seen, where I had been. And that was 50 years ago, and that's really the beginning of the whole thing. Think it's easy? It's never easy.
Philbin's talk show career continued to rise, and at the national level, he served as Joey Bishop's sidekick, as well as helmed the Regis Philbin Show. In 1983, he came back home to New York, where he created The Morning Show for WABC, which quickly became the #1 program in the market.
In case people don't know who we are, we should introduce ourselves.
This is Regis and I'm Kathy. That's right.
In 1985, Kathy Lee Gifford joined him, and in September 1988, Live with Regis and Kathy Lee became nationally syndicated.
Let's get it over with Sagamore, my new co-host, Kelly Ripa.
Kelly Ripa joined Regis in 2001. Unscripted and unrehearsed, Regis took the country by storm.
That's what I love most about the show, that first 20 minutes, and whether we can pull it off.
I do a bit, yes.
I think I have a curiosity about whatever the guest is bringing to the show. And I like to play with them, relax them, and let them be more at ease with me than maybe they would be with someone else, or at least that's what I'm striving for.
If you were a hotel, you would be the St. Regis.
Not one to stand on his laurels, in 1999, Regis became host of the highest-rated primetime game show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Philbin helped to make the show a smash success.
Heard all around the world, he's won $1 million.
There's another side of Philbin many might not know, his lifelong passion for music. In 1968, he debuted It's Time for Regis. Since then, he's recorded 3 more albums. Awards have poured onto Regis, including 3 national Emmys, the Lifetime Achievement Award from the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, and his own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. This year, this consummate professional will retire from the show he made famous, but he will always be one of the greatest hosts in the history of television.
It means everything to me. It means in my heart I know I've had a success. That's the epitome of what I could ask for in a career.
Bells to be rung on the
He's not retiring, he's moving on, but he will always be Regis Philbin.
Well, very, very much. You know, it's been quite a night here, and I've enjoyed listening to all the stories, and all of them have the same thrust that I guess I had. You know, we all wanted to be a part of this business, and we're all lucky and happy to be a part of it. It really is a terrific business, and I enjoyed hearing, you know, things that you don't hear from people that you've known for years. Deborah Galvin's story, and I loved Joe's song, didn't you? Let's look the way Brian Williams just strutted here a few minutes ago, you know. He's here to clean things up. Brian, thank you for coming. Appreciate it. I know you were on the air till 7. I wondered how you were going to do it.
I might have a few remarks for you.
Oh, please. He's very, very funny. He's the right guy to close the show. Well, look, let me tell you something. I thought I was just going to come up here and say thank you very much for inducting me into the Hall of Fame, and I appreciate that very, very much. But while we're talking about what our past was like, I want to tell you a quick little story about something that helped me a great deal in all the years I've been doing this. Yes, I was a page at NBC, and this came after Notre Dame and after 2 years in the Navy. But you know, I never dreamed that I would have the ability, the talent to get in front of a camera and talk to it. I just didn't see myself like that, even though as a kid I listened to all the radio and the TV stations, and I loved all those guys, like William B. Williams and their magnificent voices, and they were so cool and just fabulous entertainers. Anyway, first job is at the Hudson Theater on 44th Street. NBC was starting the Tonight Show, and the very first host, as you probably all remember, was Steve Allen. And I'm on the second balcony of the Hudson Theater, and I'm waiting to seat the audience, but not till their rehearsal is over. So there was Steve Allen at the piano, playing the piano, and everything he said was just hilariously funny. He was just a brilliant guy. He could write music, he could write songs, he could write books. He was very, very talented. And he had a little ensemble cast with him. You may recall some of these names: Louis Nye and Tom Poston and Bill Dana, who went out to become Jose Jimenez. And that was his little acting company. And all of them on the stage were ad-libbing with each other, and I was standing in the balcony, the second balcony, looking down, saying, "My God, these people are so talented. What are you doing here?" And Steve and Edie, Steve Lawrence, Edie Gourmet, were the singers on the show. They were both in their teens, magnificent voices. So this hounded me all through my life. And I'm not going to take you all through the life, but I went out to Hollywood, and I worked there for 28 years, starting in the prop house, and then I worked I wrote the news for Baxter Ward, and then I went down to San Diego and worked out of a news wagon from 5 a.m. to 2 p.m., reporting news on the hour. And in the 50s in San Diego, there wasn't much going on. I went right to the police station and cut me down about 8 stories and used those every hour. And then the TV station heard what I was doing on the radio. They brought me over. I did a show called Feature Desk, every day I had a feature, which I shot with an 8mm camera, then brought it back, processed the film, edited, wrote the copy. It was great training. And I did a little sports, and I did a little weather on the station as well. And then I got to break as the 11 o'clock anchor, and then a rival station brought me over, and I said, "I'll come over only if you let me do a talk show," because I had seen the one guy who influenced me so much at that point was Jack Paar. Jack Paar would come out and didn't have a series of one-liners. He simply told people, sometimes he sat on the edge of his desk, and he simply told people where he had been, who he had seen, what he had done, and he made it sound funny. And I used to do that as a kid on Morris Park Avenue in the Bronx. I had the older guys in stitches with stories that I had seen. So I thought, maybe I could do that. So I got my 11:30, 11:15 show in those days on the NBC affiliate in San Diego, KOGO, which is now KGTV. And I opened the show with things that I had seen all week. And it turned out to be quite funny. Ad-libbing all these great little anecdotes. And then I got a offer to replace, of all people, Steve Allen. 9 years after I had watched him from the balcony and admired him so much. He was one of the great talents. And I couldn't believe that I was following Steve Allen. And when I got there, I learned that the show was on a 2-week tape delay. 2-week tape delay. And so I said, well, I'll see it through, but everything I talk about is what I had seen last night. I never had any writers, still don't. It's just talk. And so they sent me on a tour of all the affiliates. This is Westinghouse, which then on CBS. I went to Boston, New York, of course. I went to Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Baltimore. Land in these cities, and the local critic would come out and say, "I've never heard of you. You're replacing Steve Allen? Who are you? And what is your talent?" And I would think, Jesus, how am I going to answer this? What is my talent? I have no talent. And we talk about the guy I met on the street the night before. And so they dismissed me, and anyway, I never made it to 2 weeks till they killed me, and I lost the show. But I had another show on Fox, Channel 11, in Hollywood, once a week. And one night, I interviewed a reporter, one of the great radio guys who just drove everybody nuts. He was sarcastic. He was cutting. His name was Joe Pine. I don't know how many guys remember Joe Pine from the old days out in Hollywood. But he was a tough old guy. They used to say he could gargle with razor blades. That's how tough he was. He was an ex-Marine, and he had a wooden leg, and he was just angry all the time. So I had a faith healer on this show, and the faith healer was a guy from the Philippine Islands, and he could heal people. And so it was an interesting interview, and Joe Pine came to me the next day and said, "How do I reach this guy? I want to go get healed." So I found out where the guy was, and I said, "Joe, but if you go, when you come back, you must do our show and tell me your experience." Okay, so Joe Pine goes all the way to the Philippines. I had a guide meet him at the airport, guide him into the jungle, and there was the faith healer, and he was working on some American tourists and so on, and Joe just looked at it and said, "It's a fraud," and he left. So he comes back on the show. I figured he'll be my guest. It'll be great. We'll talk about all this stuff in the Philippines. He came back. He said, "It was a fraud. I walked out, all right?" I said, "Yeah, okay, Joe, fine." But I had 58 minutes to go with it. And so I got involved, and it turned out to be a pretty good interview. Next day, I had a call from Joey Bishop's office. Joey was in to start a late-night show with ABC and go up against Johnny Carson in a possible situation. Johnny had already been on the air for about 5 years. But Bishop was looking for a sidekick, an announcer, somebody like Ed McMahon, and he saw the interview with Joe Pine. So he went and he called me in. So I go in to see Joey Bishop. And the first thing he said to me was, "I saw you last night on the show. You got a lot of talent." So all my life I wanted to know what my talent was. And here was Joey Bishop, hanging with the Rat Pack, Frank, Dean, Sammy. I said, "This guy's been in business a long time." So I said to him, "Yeah? What's my talent?" "Wise guy." And he sat down. And Joey Bishop, all of a sudden was on the defensive. He was there, or I was there, to be interviewed by him, and I'm interviewing him about my talent. So he stands up, and you know how these comedians are. They stand up, and they can pontificate, they have an opinion on everything, how to end the war, how to get into a war, what to do about the country. And he's looking at me, and he's thinking, what the hell is his talent? So I'm sitting there, I'm waiting, and I know I put him on the spot. I didn't want to stare at him, because he was staring at me. There was a window behind him. This is William Morris in Beverly Hills. And there was a tree blowing in the breeze. And so I began looking at the tree to avoid his gaze. And finally, "I'll tell you what your talent is. You," and I said, "Oh my God, here it comes. You are a great listener." A great listener? Is that good? He said, "Go away, I like you." He said, go to the drugstore. Beverly Wilshire Hotel had a drugstore on the corner of Wilshire Boulevard. So I went around the corner, had a cup of coffee, come back in an hour, I came back in an hour. And now Bishop is surrounded by Ed Hook Stratton and Norman Brokaw, all of his lieutenants. And I know his face is red, beet red. He's angry, and I know what the hell it was. They were telling him, "Hey, this guy is a talk show host. He's going to bother you. He's going to interrupt you. He's going to not allow you to be the host of your show. Why do you want him?" And that's what Bishop told me. "How do I know you're going to keep your mouth shut? How do I know you're not going to interrupt me? How do you know you're not going to want to be a part of the show?" And I stood up and I said, "I tell you how you know, Joey. I am a great listener." Now, I didn't realize how wise and smart Joey Bishop is. But then I get back to New York after 28 years in California, and I've been in New York 28 years, and 26 years of them have been with Kathy Lee and Kelly Ripa. And damned if I'm not a great listener. Thanks everybody for allowing me to interview all the folks. I appreciate it. I can't wait for Brian Williams. He's going to be great.